So today I thought I'd make a little comparison video between the arithmometer, the MADAS, and the Hamann Manus Model C. The arithmometer and the MADAS are both Leibniz wheel-based machines. The arithmometer obviously being the first one on the market, and then several machines, sort of use that same Leibniz wheel or step drum design, including the MADAS. And then, of course, the benefit of the MADAS is it has automatic division and is widely recognized as the first machine to have that. And I threw in the Hamann Manus Model C, reason being because that also has automatic division, but it does it in an entirely different way than the MADAS, so I thought that was just kind of interesting to throw in there. There's not too many different machines that are hand cranked but have automatic division, so we'll just take a look at the Hamann Manus just for fun. Of course, the arithmometer does not have automatic division, but we'll just throw it in the comparison just for fun. So yeah, let's open up these machines and take a look at them. So the arithmometer has this nice wooden case, at least it used to be nice, about 150 years ago. So some of the veneer is missing there, but overall it's mostly intact. I did have to sort of glue it back together in certain places, but the lid here just hinges up. And underneath we have the nice brass machine there. Get a little look at the serial number there. That serial number puts this machine manufactured in 1876, so coming up on 150 years, but the actual, original release of this model was 1865. So, yeah, it's over 150-year-old design. But yeah, so that's the arithmometer. Let's take a look at the MADAS. The MADAS has this nice tin lid. Of course, most of the logo was gone, but I did put a little coat of lacquer on there just to sort of seal in the remains of it, sort of protect it. But this, I'm going to do this with one hand. It has clips on the side, but the clips are kind of worn out, so may not actually latch in, but looks like it's going to, so probably gonna have to use two hands for that, maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna have to use two hands for that. Okay, so I got the lid off the MADAS, and it's just, as you can see, it's just a lid that clips on, so it comes off entirely. And underneath is the blackened brass interface. Of course, the arithmometer is lacquered brass. This is blackened brass. Of course, most of the blacking is worn off, but yeah, so that's the MADAS. You can see pretty similar interface. You got the carriage at the top, both of those, sliders at the bottom, and crank in the bottom right corner. Of course, the arithmometer has this little storage box here, which would have had a glass panel on there for you to take notes with a crayon as you're working. In the MADAS, that's replaced by the automatic division mechanism, which we'll take a look at in a minute. Now on to the Hamann Manus Model C. Mine came with this metal cover, which is actually not correct. This is a Model C2, and I think this cover is actually off a Model A or Model B, because it doesn't actually attach to anything. It just sort of sets on top, so that just comes off. Yeah, there's really nothing for it to interface in there. So yeah, I don't think that's the right cover for that, but keeps the dust off it anyway. Yeah, so this one you just take the cover off, and then it has this little flip out here, and you can see when I do that it unlocks the carriage. This is the carriage directional shift for one way, so it just folds back to fit under the cover, whatever cover this should actually have. So get a look at those three machines there. Of course, the Hamann Manus C is significantly smaller and lighter than the other two. Yeah, so let's take a look at how the operation of these machines is. So starting with the arithmometer, I forgot to fold my little knob up here that folds up. Just folds flat for the cover to close, but yeah, that just folds up. So for regular addition, you just set a number on the slider, so we can do 1, 2, 3, and then we just turn the crank. And as you can see, it's added into the accumulator there, and the counter has increased by 1. There is no stop for this machine. There's just, as you can see underneath there's a little peg sticking up, and that little peg is just an indicator for you that that's where you're supposed to stop turning the crank. So there is no sort of, interlock or anything. You just have to pay attention to what you're doing. So yeah, there's no clearing or anything on the keyboard. So if you wanted to add a different number, you just go to the next number. So like 4, 5, 6. And these do have some detent action, but It's a little bit worn out on here. 7, 8, 9. And as you can see, our accumulator there is totalizing and counter is increasing with every crank turn. To subtract, you have this little lever here. We can pull that down. So right now it's in addition mode. You can kind of see it's French, but addition and multiplication, or the bottom is subtraction and division. So you can pull that down to subtraction, and now if I turn the crank again, it'll just subtract off what I had here on the keyboard. You see it has subtracted that. For clearing the carriage, you have these two little hand cranks. Originally these would have been knobs, but see, this was improved by Tate, so he replaced those little knobs with these brass cranks. And originally these would have been spring loaded, so when you turn the crank it would spring back, but both the springs are broken, and I decided not to fix them because didn't want to have 150 old things snapping back into place, so figured it was just well enough to leave them broken and just manually turn the cranks back. To clear it, you have to lift up the carriage. So lift it up into an intermediate position. Just turn the crank. You can see it clears out the counter there, and then this one will clear out the accumulator. You see that? And then we just drop it back in. So that's addition and subtraction. For multiplication, it's just repeated additions, so we'll switch this back up. And then we can put our number in here, say 625. You see this one has a pretty good detent yet, but this one's pretty loose. Anyway, so yeah, we'll do 625. We'll multiply that by 625, so 625 times 625. What we have to do is put our 625 in here, and then we want the counter to read 625. So we'll turn the handle until this position reads 5. And now it does. You can see that. Then we lift this up, move it over, or drop back in. Now we want a 2 there. And move over once again. Now we want a 6. There we go. And our answer, 390625, is correct. So that's multiplication. For division, clear this out. So for division, we're going to move all the way over, and I have to move my MADAS over here a little bit so this can stick out. Move it all the way over. We'll reset these. So what we want to do now is we can dial in our first number into the carriage using these little thumb wheels here. So we want to do 355. We'll just put in, if you can see that, 3, doing too far. Trying to do this and look through the camera at the same time. There you go. That should be 355. So we can let it drop back in. So we got 355 in there. We want to divide by 1, 1, 3. Put this into subtraction. Now normally what you see people do for division on these manual machines is, they'll subtract until they get an underflow, then add one back and then shift over. But on this machine that will take a little bit of time because you have to keep switching this knob back and forth every time. So I like to go a little bit slow and just check the number every time. So we're going to subtract once. We can subtract again, and we can subtract again. And now our number above our keyboard is smaller than the keyboard, so we'll just shift over. And we can keep going. Oops, no, we can't keep going because I can't read the numbers through the camera. So yes, now we have to switch it back up. Add it back in. Switch it back down. And continue. Yeah, so now we've got, can I read that? 4. You can read it. too much shadow. 470. So we can subtract, and again, and again, and one more time. Now you've got what? 18. So shift over. You can subtract again. Shift over. You can subtract again. We got 105, so that's too small. We'll shift over. And shift over. Oops, I went too far that time, so I have to add one back. Okay. Yeah, so get out of the shadow there. 3.141592. There should be little pegs that would be normally stored in here, but unfortunately those have gone missing. You would be able to put a little peg in there for your decimal point, but yeah, just have to notice that it's 3.141592, which is correct. So yeah, that's your division on the arithmometer. So reset these, clear up the carriage. You notice that the lacquer is worn off on both sides of the carriage, because that's the only way you can move the carriage, is to just grab it, lift it, and move it. So that's just the expectation there. I have a little bit of a weak spring on one of these. It doesn't always clear out right, but it is almost 150 years old, so you know, you're gonna have some of these issues, but overall it's in pretty working order. So yeah, that's your 4 operations on the arithmometer. You can do square roots, but we're not going to do that in this video. We're going to move on to the MADAS next. So let's get this sort of closer and in frame. Yeah, so the one difference I want to point out is the arithmometer has these black wheels with the white digits, while the MADAS has these nice chrome wheels, or nickel I should say. It's actually nickel. Nothing was chrome back then, but yeah, these nice nickel plated wheels. And it does have wheels for the slider too, so if I wanted to put 1, 2, 3, you can read that right there on those little wheels there, which is pretty cool. The arithmometer does not have that. Also, you notice that the orientation of the sliders is reversed. On the MADAS, 0 is up here, while on the arithmometer, 0 is down at the bottom. So that's kind of cool. And also, the MADAS has automatic, or not automatic clearing, but quick clearing, so you just reset them like that. And again, this one's a little bit loose, but it's just some wear in the brass plate here. The side-to-side end play on these is set by just this groove in the brass plate, which, after over 100 years is a little bit worn out. So, just something you have to expect with machines of this age. But anyway, we can set 1, 2, 3. We are in addition and multiplication mode here. You can see over there is subtraction, and then this up here is for automatic division, which we will get to later. But yeah, so on this machine, after you set this on here, you're in your right mode. You have to push down, and then the handle pops back up and locks in. You can see we've increased the counter by 1 and have added to the accumulator. And again, you can do the same thing. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And yeah, we got a running total in the accumulator, and the counter is increasing for every rotation. And then for subtraction, just flip the switch over for subtraction, and now turn the handle again, and it will just subtract whatever is there on the sliders there. So we can reset those, and see this time it reset properly. So I just need a little bit of momentum. For the clearing, you got these quick clears here, so you just pull this over, that clears it out. Same thing for the accumulator. So for multiplication, pretty similar to the arithmometer. We'll put this back in multiplication mode. We'll set our number on the keyboard here, say 625. And then again, we want this counter to read 625. So we want to have a 5 there. You got that. Now, the carriage shifting on this has two modes. It has single space mode or quick move mode. So this switch here is single space mode. We pinch it, we slide it, it stops after a single space and locks in, and we're good to continue. So we've got a 2 there, on a single space again. And there we go. 390625 is 625 times 625. So we can clear out the keyboard. That one's still getting a little bit stuck there. Clear out the registers. And then for automatic division, which is the fun part of this, this time we want to space all the way out. So we'll take the multi-space, move it all the way out. It locks in the last position. We want to dial in our 355 here. Let's see what I'm doing there. Went too far. 355. And now we want to set our 113 down on the keyboard, which we have to do this column. So you can see this column is way out beyond there, so we'll start there. Now what we do is we flip the automatic division switch, and you notice when I flip that, it'll automatically put this into subtraction. You can see it automatically puts that into subtraction, and then we can start and we just go. And you notice this little thing over here is changing to indicate the state that we're in. So when it's underflow, it changes to state 2 for restoring the underflow. Then it changes to state 1 for shifting. And then continue from there. You got a bell, so now we're going to prepare to stop when this changes to a 0 again. So now when it gets to a 0, oops, didn't stop quite on time. There we go. So now it's at a 0, we can stop. The crank pops back up, and we've got our answer in the counter there, 3.141592. So pretty cool. Works pretty well. I did go through this machine and clean everything up. Obviously, well, with all these machines I did that, but yeah. So that's how your automatic division works on here. You can just switch this back. Should be able to anyway. There we go. Handle wasn't quite locked in. Now we can switch it back and clear everything out. And there we go. So that's your 4 operations on the MADAS with the automatic division. And just for fun, there's the serial number there, 4907. So I think that puts this around 1915 manufacture, 1915 to 1916. The same company that made the MADAS, which is Hans W. Eagley, also made the Millionaire, and they continued from the Millionaire serial numbers into the MADAS serial numbers. So the first, several thousand were Millionaire only, and then when they started with the MADAS, they just, mixed those in with the Millionaire serial number. So I think the MADAS started around 3500 or something. I'm not totally sure, but something like that. So yeah, anyway, that's the MADAS. So now we'll move on to the Hamann Manus Model C, and I think this is a pretty cool machine, to be honest. It's pretty small, but it has automatic division, so I think it's kind of cool. So yeah, for your addition and subtraction, we have to move the carriage. If we can, should move. There we go. It's spring loaded. I have to push this down like that, and now in this position is the unlocked or freeloaded position. So this is when you can clear it out, but nothing else will happen. So if I put a number in here, you'll see that nothing actually happens to the carriage. So you have to space it over one position. And now if I put a number in, you'll see it adds in as expected. And this has automatic clearing on the sliders, which is also pretty cool. So that's what this thing up here is for. It's supposed to have an arrow on it, but it's, you know, kind of one off. So when the arrow is pointed this way towards add, it will clear every time. When the non-existent arrow is pointed that way towards multiply, it will not clear every time. And then you got your little switch here for counter directions. So if I switch this back, then the counter will count up for subtraction and down for addition. Right now it counts up for addition and down for subtraction. So that's what that's for. Yeah, so you can continue on. Say 3, 4, 5. Alright, so wasn't doing that consistently, but that's okay. Doesn't really matter what numbers we're adding in, just to show you how it works. And then for subtraction, I wanted to use the same number again. There's this little switch here, so you can't turn the handle backwards like you can on a regular pinwheel style machine. Of course, this is not actually a pinwheel machine, even though it looks like one. I should say it's disguised as one. So you have this little switch here, and you notice that when I flip that switch, the whole carriage actually moves. So how that works is, in this little bump here in the cover, there's idler gears here that, you know, either engage or disengage with the carriage. So right now, the carriage is directly engaged with the ratchet wheel gears on the main drum, or the main shaft. And so when you turn the handle, they directly drive the carriage, you know, in the addition direction. When you flip the switch, the carriage moves over, disengages from the main gears, engages with the idler gears, which, you know, have a reversing effect, because now there's, you know, one more gear in the train. The output of the train is now reversed, so it'll actually turn the counter backwards. You see now it has subtracted. So we can't clear it out. We have to move all the way over into that disengaged position, clear it out. You notice that the counter also cleared, which is this over here. And if you don't want that to happen, you have to push this down and then turn that wheel. And then you can also clear the counter independently if you wanted to. Yeah, so if you want to clear the main register without clearing the counter, it's actually a two-handed operation to push this down and turn that. But yeah, so that's addition and subtraction. We can get on to multiplication. So I need to push this down and turn it 180 degrees. So now the imaginary arrow is pointing towards multiply. So we can put our number in here, say 625. And similar to the other machines, we want the counter to also read 625. So I'll move into the first position. We want to have a 6 in the counter there. Make sure I'm in addition mode. Now I am. So now we've got that. We shift over once like that. 2. And I wasn't paying attention. That should actually be a 5. So we can space back, or with this button here. And I spaced back too far, I think. I want that to be a 5, so we'll subtract 1. That's fine. Now we are in this position. And you can barely see it. There's a little plus and a minus with arrows pointing down. So right now this is telling me I'm in position 3, but on minus. I don't want to be on minus, so I'll switch to plus. Notice now that now the plus arrow is pointing down to position 3, so I'm in position 3 on plus. You can kind of see that. So now I want to have a 6 in this position. And there we go. 625 times 625 is 390,625. So that's multiplication on there. If you want to clear this out manually, you can just push this down. And it clears it out. So we want to clear this out now. We have to go all the way back. Notice that both registers clear out. And now for division, we can only dial these little thumb wheels here in the unlocked position here, or the disengaged position. So put a 3 in here. Some wheels don't, they could be just a little bit bigger. They don't give you quite the the traction I would like to have, but they do work. So yeah, we'll do 355. Now there's a little button, a little red dot right there. So that tells you where you have to start your divisor. So to the right of that. So do 1 1 1 1 3. After that little red button there. Well, it should be red. It was red almost 100 years ago. Yeah. So now for automatic division, we push this in. See, it pops in. Now you push this all the way over and release it. And you can kind of see we're in subtraction on the highest number position, that little line there going down to the highest number position. And coincidentally, our 113 is directly above the 355, which is what we want. So that's just that little red button there tells you that that's the position. And now we should be able to just go. And I did make a mistake. I forgot to change this switch here, so I actually have to start over. I'll do that real quick. And we'll dial back in our 355. Okay, and now we'll make sure to change this to count up for division. Push this back in. So the machine moves a little bit. Yeah, so now we should be good to go again. Yeah, you notice that nothing's happening. We're in that disengaged position, so we can just stop at that point. Yeah, you can see our answer there, 3.141599. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I have a video on the Hamann Automat, Hamann Automat S, where I kind of explained how it works. This is similar-ish to that, in the sense that the carriage is spring-loaded, so you can see the... See, if I push it back, it springs to one side, and I think it's really cool how simple this whole thing is. Basically, all it is by spring loading the carriage, this piece, interacts with a tooth rack under there, so you can see it can latch in. You can see it clicks. You can see it click. See how it clicks along that tooth rack. Well, when you push that back, it engages with a similar but slightly different tooth rack, which is positioned a little bit differently, so that when it engages with that back one, it's automatically in the division when you push it all the way over, and then that second rack is sort of half-stepped. So like the rack that I'm in now, when this is pulled out, has the teeth are spaced such that every tooth along the rack that you're engaged with will be, the width of one counter digit, essentially. So that when you move one tooth along the rack, you're moving, like if you're in addition mode, you'll move to the next tooth, you'll all still be in addition mode. But for the division rack, it's half-stepped. So every jump along a tooth on the division rack, it changes between addition and subtraction mode. So on the division rack, you'll start in subtraction mode. When it jumps the first tooth, it'll be in addition mode. Then when it jumps to the next tooth, it'll be in subtraction mode on the next digit, and so on and so forth all the way down. So basically, it's a half-step rack compared to the normal rack. And then the normal rack is also attached to this switch here, so the whole rack, moves for which mode you want to be in. But every tooth along that rack is spaced such that when you move from one tooth to the next, you're still in the mode you want to be in for the main rack. And then, like I said, the division rack is half-stepped. So by spring loading the carriage to always pull to the left, like that, and by having that half-stepped rack that you can engage with, all they had to do was add a finger to this wheel to poke on this, so that every time there's an underflow or an overflow, it bumps this so it can jump one step along that division rack. And that's basically all they had to do. Everything else is just, the the difference in spacing between the addition and subtraction is just a design feature of the machine. It's already there, but they were able to make, or I should say he, which is Crystal Hamann, was able to make use of that, just by adding that extra rack and then extra spring and allowing a finger on this to trip this. That's how we got automatic division. So it's pretty simple. Basically, all that happens is you start out in subtraction mode, which actually we'll push in, so it should show. Yeah, we start out in subtraction mode when this is pushed in all the way to the right, and then as soon as there is an underflow, see if I can, I can't do it by hand. Yeah, I think that jumped a little bit too far. But basically, every time there's an underflow, it'll jump one. Yeah, I think that was too far. I can do this manually. So right now it's in subtraction mode on the highest digit. If I bump it once, see, now it moves to addition on the highest digit. If I bump it again, it moves to subtraction on the second highest digit. And then I think that moved too far, but you get the idea. Basically, it's a half-step rack, so every time there's an overflow, there's a finger on this last digit wheel here that just bumps this enough to let it jump one tooth along that division rack, which inherently changes the mode and moves to the next digit, when it's in addition mode. So it'll start out, I'm explaining this clearly, but it'll start out in subtraction. This gets bumped, it moves to addition. This gets bumped, it moves to subtraction on the next digit. This gets bumped, it moves to addition. And then just by having that half step, going right along, it just automatically moves through, the right stages and does what it needs to do. So yeah, I just think that's pretty cool how simple that was. For the Hamann Automat, it's basically the same idea, except that that toothed division rack is connected to the motor clutch, so that as soon as the carriage moves into its next position and is ready to go, it engages the motor to continue the operation. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty cool how simple they were able to, I should say, Crystal Hamann, he was able to make that happen. But yeah, so we'll clear that out. Clear this out. And yeah, so I think that's going to be about it for this video. Fold that back up, and it's ready to go back away again. So yeah, I just want to give a little overview of these 3 different machines here, but I think are pretty cool machines. A little comparison between them, between the original step drum machine versus the automatic division step drum machine versus the automatic division Hamann Manus Model C. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.